Have you ever had food poisoning? We like to talk about food on a Thursday, so I thought, we should actually talk about some of the dangers in food as well. And poisoning ourselves is one of the things that we're quite good at, really. Have you had food poisoning because of something you ate in a restaurant? Did you give it to yourself at home? Did your best friend poison you with their lax procedures at a dinner party? What happened, and did you pinpoint the source of the problem? Give us a call. 1300 222 702 is the number. And how finicky are you about food rules at home? Or do you think that, really at home, a few bugs, they're not going to do us that much harm, are they? Or maybe you're in the food business and you've seen some of the less than desirable practices. 1300 222 702 is the number. The rates at which we poison ourselves with the food that is supposed to sustain us has given my next guest cause to write a book that you will never cook anything from, a cookbook that you will never cook anything from. It's called the Rotten Food Cookbook. And Shane van der Vorstenbosch is the author of this wonderful tome, making such a great contribution to the world's culinary library. Shane, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me here.
And the important thing to stress is if somebody sees this book, don't cook from it.
Oh, the amazing thing was how many chefs said, does that mean I can actually cook the food that's gone off? So the title can go both ways.
Okay. Now, you work in food safety, don't you? Do many people get food poisoning these days?
7 million 7 million Australians every year.
Is that right?
So chances are it only takes you 1 year out of 3 and you'll have food poisoning.
Goodness. Have you had it recently?
I had it a couple of weeks ago, and so ironically, as I was writing this book, I was sitting in a production of Les Mis, just working out how long would it take me to bolt to the bathroom.
Ooh.
And that was fantastic incentive to write the book.
Right. Oh, dear me. Well, I'm glad you're here and you've recovered. Salmonella is the big one, of course, that we all know the name of. Is that the main cause?
It depends on... there's a couple big ones. So salmonella is a classic here in Australia because it's something that you get from raw chicken. And so if you're handling raw chicken and you don't wash your hands effectively and then you handle salad, you'll actually get it from the salad. So most people think you get food poisoning from the meat. It's actually the sauce. But then you move it on to the salad and it will be the salad that will give you food poisoning.
Now, there's a hint in that description, isn't there, about how you should not handle that combination of ingredients if you're cooking them?
Yes. And so within the cookbook, I've got one recipe that's chicken Caesar salad, and it's all about cutting up the chicken, not washing your hands, using the same chopping board. And so it's something that a lot of people within the home will do without thinking. Within the restaurants, the expectation is it never happens, but the reality is it does still happen. And part of the problem is just incorrect technique with washing your hands, right down to just blatantly not doing it.
So chicken Caesar salad, obviously a play on words there.
To pick up on the dad pun, yes.
Yes, there are a few of those in here. So your description is great, actually, and it's really, laying it out as recipes is really clever. Cut chicken into strips, rub chicken breast with oil, sear on a medium heat for 5 minutes. Without washing your hands, tear bread into strips and sprinkle. There's the clue there. You've just rubbed the chicken with your hands and then you've torn the bread up.
Yes.
And so this is a great reminder of how not to do it. Do you think people are a bit blasé about it at home more so than they should be? This whole idea of, it's only a few germs, it's not going to hurt us.
The great thing about food poisoning at home is you're only going to take out a couple people.
Right.
And so you can become blasé because, yes, it's just my health and it's only a minor thing. The reality is we are far too blasé, and there's some really simple things that people can be doing at home to make a huge difference. So just quickly washing their hands, having separate chopping boards, not storing the meat on the top shelf of a fridge is a big one.
Because what's the point there? What's that?
Because it'll drip down onto the things below. And so the number of times I've gone into the fridge and you notice that little puddle on the plate, and if you tip the plate as it's going out, that will drip onto whatever's below. And so suddenly it's something like a lettuce that you think is safe suddenly is contaminated with whatever meat you were defrosting just above. So there's nothing wrong with putting it on the top shelf, until you accidentally drip it onto something that's below it.
I mean, it feels a bit like, I'm quite good at getting that played out. It can't be that much of a problem. That's the real resistance to it, isn't it? You sort of think, oh, it won't be that bad.
That's right. And it's statistics. So 99% of the time, it's not a problem. And then that 1%, you happen to take out your Aunt Berthel and suddenly she's in hospital with something major, or because you thought, oh, yeah, it's still fine, we'll just heat it up and it'll be good as gold.
Tell us a bit about some of the other tips in here. So don't store the meat on the top. Really take that seriously. And if you're defrosting meat, store it, put it on the bottom shelf. The hand washing thing, just wash between handling everything. Is that the sensible rule?
A very good rule is if you are about to handle food, wash your hands. And as you're going from a high-risk food, such as meat, to something else, wash your hands. So every time you handle meat, wash your hands beforehand, afterwards. When you come back into the kitchen, wash your hands. So within a restaurant, they have to have a dedicated sink just for washing hands,
Right.
because they know it's one of the biggest things you can do to make a huge difference.
We don't have dedicated sinks at home. Does it make any difference? And what about the hand towel? Couldn't that be contaminated?
Oh, the hand towels are a classic. And now you won't be finding hand towels in kitchens anymore. They are a recipe for disaster. There was a volunteer organisation that works with children. They had a very large event, thousands of kids there, and a massive outbreak. And it was because they were sharing tea towels. Now, that organisation has a lot of things in place now to stop it happening. And one of those things is you use the tea towel for one event, and then so for breakfast, lunch or dinner, and then you wash it. You never, ever hang tea towels up. So that one change has eliminated one of the major causes of getting a lot of kids infected in a short amount of time.
Should we do that at home? The tea towel only used once, the hand towel only used once?
People use dishwashers now, so the concept of having a tea towel to wipe dishes is rapidly disappearing, and it really should be a hand towel and never a tea towel if that's what you're using it for.
Okay. Shane van der Vorstenbosch is here. His book is called The Rotten Food Cookbook. You don't cook from it, okay? But it is a great book to have a look at for some of these tips about food safety. Cooking is such a thing these days. It's not just a couple of things on the barbie. People are pretty elaborate in their preparation. They use a lot of things they may not have used before, a lot of cream, a lot of oysters, all sorts of things. It's important to think about the cautions that should be in place. Just to kind of underline how serious it can be with food poisoning. It's not just a little tummy ache. Catherine's given us a call from Coogee. Hi, Catherine.
Look, the story involves my mum, actually. She's in her late 70s, and she rang up and told us that she thought she'd picked up a virus, a gastrovirus, and she had chronic diarrhoea. And this was just going on day after day after day. And I'll just turn my alarm off. Sorry, I put something in the oven. And after but she was going to the doctor. She had friends that was taking her to the doctors and making sure her medications were okay, but it just wasn't going away. And then come day 5 or 6, she ran, because I live in Coogee and she's in Wollongong. I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm going to have to go down there. And of course, by the time I got there, she had actually fainted, recovered enough to be able to get onto the lounge. And I then called the ambulance. They came to have a look at her and realised that she needed to be in hospital, took her to hospital, and they said her potassium levels were so low that she could have gone into cardiac arrest.
Cardiac arrest, goodness me.
So she was put on intravenous drip on one arm with fluids and the other arm with potassium.
Wow.
But then what happened is they discovered there was a pattern, because around this same time they had other people coming in with very similar symptoms, and then they traced it back. It was a salmonella poisoning event that happened from a sandwich bar.
Wow, how worrying. And really, it's much more than just the tummy ache, isn't it? Thanks for the story, Catherine. No, that really does make the point, doesn't it, Shane?
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, there are fatal cases, and they will be the people who are weakest in our society, so the old or the very young.
Yeah. What's the temperature danger zone you talk about?
The danger zone is 5 degrees to 60 degrees, and it's basically the range at which we know bacteria will thrive. So if you're storing something below 5 degrees, it slows right down. So that's why we use fridges and freezers. If you go above 60 degrees, you'll kill off bacteria. And so if you're cooking something or reheating something, you must take it up above 60 degrees if you want to kill off bacteria. If you've got food that's sitting, say, at 25 degrees, bacteria just thrives at that temperature. And so the entire food safety program is about minimising the amount of time that potentially hazardous foods are in that danger zone.
Right, okay. And that's pretty easy to be cautious about at home, isn't it? I mean, you should know your fridge temperature.
The problem with domestic fridges is you've just got that useless dial that means absolutely nothing.
Right,
And
but you can buy a little fridge thermometer, can't you?
So
worthwhile?
a very simple fridge thermometer is a brilliant idea, and that's what should be in all fridges, but unfortunately isn't. So a good investment.
Yeah, and they're not very expensive. I think they're a great idea. Now, one of the things that you mentioned in here, which I've actually seen, is where a restaurant has a couple of items, maybe some cream, maybe the smoked salmon, not enough room in the fridge. Actually, I want it here near the bar so I can reach it. I'll just put it in the drinks fridge, which is being open and closed all the time and is probably not at anything like the right temperature. There are fridges and there are fridges, aren't there?
Yes, and the cafe just around the corner from me had a Coke fridge, and it was set at 8 degrees or something like that, 10 degrees. And they were keeping all of their products in there just as a bit of overflow. And so when I pointed that out to them, I came back a week later and they'd put a piece of masking tape over the thermometer. So that was their solution, was to hide the problem. And you're going, that's good. And as long as you're using it very, very quickly, you won't cause a problem.
Right.
Now, it's not legal, and hopefully the council will be picking them up on it. But the temptation is just to leave something in that fridge, and what you're doing is you're aging it a lot faster.
Right. And always label things, because what you think might be the sugar is not necessarily the sugar. That's the risk, isn't it?
And that's a huge risk at home, because we've got all those nice little generic plastic containers, so you'll just put it in there and it looks like sugar, but it'll be something else.
Like the ant poison or something.
Yes.
That's, no joke. I mean, that's the sort of thing that can happen. Shane, where can people get the book?
Right now you can get it from the website, so rottenfoodcookbook.com.au.
Perfect.
The Bookhaven in Baulkham Hills is selling it, and if you're in Melbourne, Books for Cooks.
Okay, terrific. It's a great contribution. Thank you very much, Shane. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Shane van der Vorstenbosch is the author of the Rotten Food Cookbook. You will not cook from it, but you'll learn a lot from it about keeping yourself and your family and your restaurant customers safe.